Hello, and welcome to Sunday Funday with Marcela Alonso. Today, my guest is Alise Morales.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. So excited to be here.
Thank you so much. You are good friends with Millie. She has been on. She
Good
was,
friends, collaborators, podcast co-hosts, all of it.
yeah, she was a wonderful guest. And you are the other half of Go Touch Grass
I
podcast.
am. I am.
Correct. So, tell me, I don't know too much about where are you from?
So I'm from Virginia. That's what I usually say. I technically lived in California until I was 12. Then we moved to Virginia, but I've been in New York for like 11 years now. So I've pretty much been in New York as long as I lived anywhere at this point.
Mhm.
And then my whole family is from Jersey. So I feel like I'm culturally from Jersey, but grew up in Virginia,
Well, where's your
California.
family, Morales?
So my dad's Cuban and then
Uh-huh.
my mom is Italian. They both grew up in Union City, which is like
Oh,
really,
yes, yeah,
really
the second
close.
most populated Cuban population.
Exactly. They used to call it Havana on the Hudson.
Oh, I didn't
So,
know they called it Havana. I'm half Cuban, half Puerto
oh,
Rican.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, my dad was one of the Union City Cubans, and my mom was a product of the previous immigration wave of Italians,
You ate
and
good
now
growing up.
I did. I did.
Yeah, because Jersey Cubans are different. Now there's, believe it or not, there's a lot of Cubans in Las Vegas.
Really?
They have migrated there because, and I learned this because my daughter's father is from Cuba, and I met him there when I lived in Vegas for a short period of time. And I always say, like, I met him there because I was just like craving cultural. It was like,
Yeah.
and because I never was crazy about him, but because a lot of the Cubans, when they came there, they had a choice. And so they heard Las Vegas, they thought money. And so now there's a big Cuban population over there in Las Vegas.
You know, that's so funny because the thing that I've always heard about Cuba before the revolution was that it had almost like a Vegasy vibe for like American tourists, gambling,
Mhm.
mob guys, and all of that stuff. So it kind of makes sense in a weird way that people would be
Yeah.
like, Vegas, I've heard of Vegas, Cuba, Vegas. Like there is a connection there.
Yeah, yeah. So some of them are there. So some of them were ended at Jersey, of course, Miami. I
Yeah.
have family in Tampa. So they're invading.
Yeah, they're all over, but I've got a ton of family in Miami, but most of my family went to Union City first because there were like embroidery and factory jobs there, which I think was the big
Mm.
thing because like my grandpa in Cuba had worked in a factory. I think he was like the floor manager or something. And then my grandma was really good at embroidery. So like she went and worked at one of these embroidery factory places.
Oh,
So I
neat.
think that's how they ended up there. But now almost all of them are in Miami now.
Yeah, enjoying the
Yeah.
heat.
Yeah, I think they were like,
Get
now
me out of
that
this place.
Jersey might not be where we belong.
So share with me with your journey, how you first
Mhm.
got into comedy.
So, always been a theater kid, always been a little performer. I mentioned I lived out in Los Angeles until I was like 12 or so.
Mhm.
And kinda got the bug there, I think. I just, like, the acting world is there, so I would take, like, little acting summer camps and classes and all of this stuff, and I was super into it there. Then my family moved to Virginia when I was, like, 12 for my mom's job, and I was always theater kid, drama, that was always my jam, and I always gravitated towards, like, the funny, more comedic roles in general.
Mhm.
Then when I went to college, I joined my college improv team, and that was kind of the big thing that showed me. I went to University of Delaware, And a bunch of people from that team would then move to New York and start doing comedy. So that's like where I finally saw for the first time, oh, that's how someone becomes a comedian and that's a thing you can do. And that this is like how it works. And that's how I like actually first got the idea of like, oh, I could be a comedian. Cause I think in my head, it was always like, you're just I didn't really understand how comedy was pursued or think about it in that way. I just thought of like you're either trying to be a professional actor or you're not. And then when I saw the specific comedy route because of my improv team in college, and we would always come up to New York and see shows at UCB, and a ton of people who graduated from the team would come and join UCB. That was where I was like, "Oh, okay, I see a path to pursue." And that's what I did 11 years ago now, which is so crazy to
Wow,
me.
11 years ago.
I know. I It makes me feel insane when I'm like, "Oh, it's literally been over a decade that I've
Mhm.
been in New York City." But yeah, I graduated in 2012 and immediately moved to New York. Like I didn't go home at all for any I packed up my college house and we drove my shit to Brooklyn and I've been here ever
Have you
since.
been in Brooklyn for 11?
Yep. I moved from Bushwick to Bed-Stuy, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, and then it was pretty much the improv route when I started. I did all the classes at UCB, was on a
Mhm.
team at UCB for a little bit, and then throughout that process was also starting to develop like stand up, doing more solo comedy, writing a lot. I started doing stuff for social media, making characters and videos. So it's like I was always kind of pursuing a bunch of different avenues at the same time.
Just being creative. Yeah, overall
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah, I never wanted to like limit myself to one type of pursuit. I was always kind of somebody who was trying to have at least a little proficiency in everything that
Right,
was
right.
going
I feel
on
like that
and
gets you more places than just yeah.
it does. Yeah, I really I'm so glad that I did improv and that that was my gateway because I really do think that I learned a bunch of valuable stuff about just like being on stage and how comedy is like built and how to
Mhm.
like think about it. Um but I'm also really glad that especially at that time, I feel like there were people who were so singular in their pursuit of getting on a team at UCB that they didn't really explore any of these other avenues, and I'm glad that I always was like, "Well, I also do wanna do stand-up, I also do wanna do characters, writing is important to me." I think it's good to make sure that you're dabbling in a little bit of everything
Mhm.
instead of, yeah, like, putting all
Be
your eggs in one
being
basket.
well, yeah, people I think learned with the SAG strike.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is it's tough because also, UCB, it's back now and I'm doing a character team with them and I'm so glad. And like, I just saw the new space and the new theater is really cool. But it's like, yeah, if you're just pursuing one route, like the theater could shut down because there's a pandemic. And
Mhm.
then you're SOL or yeah, the
The SAG
SAG
strike.
strike was so tough and like it was so intense because I had really been kind of focused on my acting route up until the strike, and then it was like, "Thank God Millie and I are starting this podcast. Thank God I have
Yeah.
live shows going on because thank God I have a writing career where I can, like, write articles for Jezebel or different places because I can't act. I can't work in acting." So, yeah, especially in the creative path and in this path, I think it's really good to make sure that you are
Yeah.
at least proficient in
Well-rounded.
a couple yeah, in a couple
Yeah.
different things. You're obviously gonna have the things that, like, you're more drawn to and that you love the most, but it's good to make sure that you have a couple different things going on, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, when I lived in LA, when you really like when I lived there for 10 years, there were people that I know that were actors and believe it or not, they were well-rounded, but you just don't they don't publicly announce it so much. And I noticed that was the normal thing and people would say, "Oh, I never see them in anything," but they would be getting money other sources, which was smart.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like the SAG strike definitely put that into like really stark view for me where I was like, "Oh, I need to make sure that these other parts of my resume are like that I'm
Mhm.
tending to them
Right.
because as much as I love being an actor and being in and getting booking roles, it's like that is so out of your control even when the industry isn't on strike, and then,
Yeah.
like, it can go on strike, and then
Yeah.
you're really in a pinch, so
That's why with my podcast, what I would like, what I'm trying to do, and it's been a little process because I had a meeting with my producer with the SAG office. I'm trying to get my insurance through the
yeah,
podcast
you
agreement.
can do that with podcasts,
Yeah.
right?
But they, you
That's
know what, when I had the meeting, you know what they go, "Oh, sometimes we audit you." And I'm like, I'm trying to, like, they said it, and the you know how people in LA are. They'll be real nice to your face, and then like all of a sudden a knife comes out, and she's like, "Oh, but everybody gets audited." And I'm just like, that kind of stressed me. So
yeah, I don't ever wanna hear the words, "You're being audited, we might audit you."
yeah, like the way
Like,
she
not
said it, I'm like, it was like, so we're gonna go again in a couple months and see if I can get that and get my insurance
yeah.
that way.
Well, the SAG
um
insurance really rocks
oh
if you
yeah,
can
and it's
get
so
it.
cheap, it's so
It's
cheap to be.
so cheap and it's so good.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
got
sucks
more physical therapy sessions because of it. I have something wrong with my eye, and I got some lasered on my
Oh,
eye.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have, chronic incurable dry eye.
Oh, I
Very
heard that on the
sexy
podcast.
stuff. Yeah, very sexy stuff. And ever since I have had the SAG insurance, which they because of the strike, they extended our eligibility for another year, which rocks. I'm, like, doing every single, like, weird eye, like, gland procedure. I'm like, "Do it all, everything, every laser, all of it," because
Yeah.
once you never know. That's the thing that it's so good, but it's also so easy to lose. But if you're doing it through your podcast, that's such a more controlled route to
Yeah,
be able
but
to
I
do
I
it.
have to make this is why, listeners, I need you to do reviews for me.
Yes, everyone actually take a moment right now to review the podcast because it literally can
Save my
give you
life.
health insurance and save your
That's all like
life.
I'm like, that's all I want out of this is like get my health
I
insurance, I
know.
get my benefits because I was so many years in. And I've been doing in the past background work, and I'm not really crazy about background, but I had to do what I had to do
Oh, yeah.
to get it. And because I got tired of, like, if I do get an audition now, it's migrant worker, or like I've had so many migrant look like a migrant worker, like that's the big thing that I've seen this year. um
I get ones where even though I'm like very clear on my resume and stuff that I don't speak Spanish
uh-huh.
fluently, I'll get ones where they're like, we just round it up to that you do. And I'm like, no, but like I don't. So if you need someone to speak fluent Spanish in this audition, that's actually not something that I can do. And they're like,
Mhm.
just go in there. And
I
then
hate, yeah, yeah.
I've had it a couple times where I'm like, I go in there and then I don't speak Spanish, and everyone's like, "Oh, you don't speak Spanish?" And I'm like, "I literally can't tell you guys enough that I don't speak Spanish. I know that the Morales confuses you. I know that you guys think that we all speak fluent Spanish, but my mom's Italian. I don't speak Spanish. So, like, what do you want?"
Well, no, in LA they would want a Mexican neutral accent.
Mexican neutral is so
And
funny.
I'm more, so my Spanish is more like like not really Mexican. It I don't have but when I
Yeah.
was there, I would pick up the slang. You,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Of what people would say, but when I do speak Spanish, it sounds more like Puerto Rican, Cuban, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And they would, if and certain words would be different, and then they're like, "Oh, you're not speaking correctly," and
And
they're
it's like, yeah, and when I speak Spanish, I just sound so formal and
And then
insane.
I
I feel
remember
I
the agent at the time, "Well, just try doing a Mexican accent." Like, but
it's
I'm not
like
Mexican. Like,
Right, and it's like you wouldn't call someone in and be like, "Oh, and just do a Scottish accent." Like, you would make sure before, you know what I mean? Like, not everyone
yeah.
can do every accent. People people
Well,
act crazy.
they're kind of ignorant. A lot of agents and managers are kind of ignorant about they don't understand the dynamics that everybody that Spanish speaks like that we say different words. It could be like a whole
Yeah,
argument. You know what I'm saying?
I know, and it's so funny because it's literally the same as the fact that different English speaking countries sound different, have different
Mhm.
slang, use different terms of phrase. It's the exact same thing, but with Spanish.
Yeah.
So like, it's weird that it's so hard for people to comprehend and they seem so mind blown by it. And it's like, okay, well, you know how like if you talk to an Australian person, they have different slang, they have a different
Or somebody in
accent.
Boston, they say
Yes, or even
go to
exactly.
Fenway and Park. What do they?
Yeah, exactly, like, it's just funny. It's just funny to me the way that it should be easily understood, but because it's a different language, they're like, "What? No, but it all sounds the same to me." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Actually, if you listened closely, I bet it was you could tell that it wasn't."
Yeah. No, exactly, exactly. So how was the pandemic for you?
Pandemic for me, wow, I blacked it all out. You know, one thing that was actually like the saving grace of the pandemic for me was that I had just booked a voiceover, like a cartoon job. It was
Mhm.
this cartoon tuning out the news that ran through the whole pandemic. And so that, and we recorded virtually. So I was working,
Oh.
which was really,
What cartoon was?
really, it was called Tuning Out the News. It was
Uh-huh.
on Paramount Plus for a while. Then it moved to Comedy Central. Then it got
Oh,
canceled.
because
But
you did the voice of AOC.
I did. That was so it was the same people for our cartoon president. That was the AOC one. They had another cartoon and it was like kind of like a weekly news show. We would interview real people, but we
Mhm.
were cartoons and it was different satirical news shows. So like um they satirized different types of news shows. So there was a fake, like super right wing Fox News one, and then I was on the fake, like kind of Rachel Maddow more left leaning one. But
Mhm.
but all the hosts are like super just obsessed with like it was the show was called Virtue Signal, and like all the the hosts were just mostly obsessed with like making themselves look really good. And then there was a fake like traditional news show that was more like centrist media people. So
Mhm.
it was really fun and cool, and that was going on through the whole pandemic. So I was working, which was really awesome. We My husband and I started the pandemic in a tiny one bedroom apartment that we started going completely insane in. And so then we moved to the apartment that I'm in now and we got a pretty good pandemic deal to move,
Oh,
which
that's
was
good.
great.
I had a pandemic deal, the one in Brooklyn, but then they went up in price.
Yeah, luckily this one, it's not rent controlled, but it's rent stabilized. So like
Uh-huh.
they'll jack like the price goes up every year, but it's not like I know people who got a great pandemic deal, but then when the pandemic was over, they were like, your rent's actually $1,500 more now. And it's like, okay, so you're evicting me then
Yeah.
because that's another
I had a
salary.
huge apartment. It was technically a four bedroom, but it was three bedroom because
Oh,
the fourth room I turned into a closet and I got it for 2,500
oh my God.
in Brooklyn. But
Ah,
the issue was I lived there for a while. They did raise the rent, but for some reason during the pandemic, like everything was cool. But one day I went to the bodega. Mind you, I had a bonnet on,
mm-hmm.
right? I had a bonnet, a baggy shirt, and everything. Some guy followed me home. And then what
Oh,
yeah, and yeah, I was like, I'm out of here. And then on top of
yeah.
that, the internet, the whole internet ordeal that we were talking
Yeah,
about.
listeners, we were complaining about the internet. I literally signed up for Verizon Fios moments before us logging in because I am done with Optimum. If I never
Oh,
see
I
another
hate it. And then
Optimum person in my life,
when it rains,
I can't I am a human being. I can't have internet that goes out cuz it's windy. Like what
oh
the is that?
yeah, I remember that like it would mess me up so much.
Yeah,
And And I'm like, I work from home. I can't afford this. They just raised the rent. I'm getting grabbed when I walk outside. I'm getting like stuck,
Yeah. Oh, it's been this whole thing where like our internet was going down and up and all of this stuff. They never keep your case on file, so you're explaining the whole thing to someone the entire every time anew. It's never the same person who comes back out. And yeah, they were just like, "Oh, well, it's really windy." And I'm like, "No, I
I've
can't lose internet because it's windy.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not how
I
that
have
works."
Spectrum now where I'm at, so I'm happy.
Nice. Well, hopefully Verizon Fios does me better. If you're
No,
listening,
no, I
Verizon.
had Verizon Fios though when I lived in the city, and it was perfect. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was good.
Optimum. I will be very happy to never see another Optimum guy in my apartment again. They're all very
Oh,
nice,
and I've
but
had them. I've had so many. That's crazy because I would have to always call them, and then they come over and they give you that time period when they're gonna
oh,
come.
yes, like with a
Oh,
7-hour time period where they could possibly
yeah.
come and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, great." Like
Oh, so annoying.
like I guess I just won't do anything. I guess I'm not a person with a life.
So share with me your stand-up history.
Yeah.
You did stand up. Did you ever tour? Did you?
I used to have, and I run it every once in a while. I did this show called The Roast of Your Teenage Self, which
Mhm.
was a live show where I would have comedians on and they would show pictures of themselves as a teenager and like roast their teenage self. It's what you
Oh,
would
that's
imagine.
cute. I like
It was
different shows
really
like that.
fun. Yeah, so I toured that
Mhm.
for a period of time right before the pandemic. I was touring it pretty regularly. I went kind of up and down the East Coast. I would take it to Philly a lot. We went to DC, we went to Richmond.
Mhm.
And then I did it out in LA. And yeah, my big plan but for 2020 was to tour it a ton. And then happenings said,
Oh,
actually, actually you're gonna be in New York for a
yeah.
while.
Yeah.
And now I do the show kind of like quarterly. So I did it in November for New York Comedy Fest, and then
Mhm.
me and Millie were getting this podcast started, so that's been like my main focus for the past couple of months, but I'm going to do it again this summer. And now I just kind of do it like as I want to. I used to really love putting up and producing my own shows, and s- I have just moved into a different phase of my life. Like whatever it was, that whatever like chip that I had that made me love doing that before, it just when I came out of the pandemic, that was one of the things where I was like, "Oh, this actually stresses me the out now to produce a live show."
Isn't it funny how you think you want to do something and then you do it and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, this is too much.
Yeah, or just like you move, it's like, oh, that was actually a phase of my life where, yeah, I was like in my mid 20s. I was like in a more hustling energy.
Mhm.
I felt very like in the scene, present to be going to shows, having people come to my shows, being connected to like different like PR stuff that you needed to do. And
Mhm.
then when I came out of the pandemic, I'm like now in my early 30s. I'm married now. I'm tired. I was like, I don't actually enjoy doing like this particular type of hustle anymore.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. It's just we all change.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing to realize because I really identified with someone who produces comedy shows
Mhm.
really heavily for a while, and then I kind of had to get to this place where I like truly checked in with myself and was like, this actually isn't fun for you anymore, and it's okay to just say, "Oh, that was then, this is now."
Right, right, right. And that's a good time walking away. We need to be able to walk away and not feel bad about a situation. What would you say the challenge of producing were?
I felt like the landscape of how you promote a show changed a lot,
Mhm.
um, in the time that, like, it just changed over COVID. Um,
Oh, okay.
just in general, it became a lot more like social media heavy. It was
Mm,
about like, yeah, getting the word out about your show on social media. Whereas prior, that was a big part of it, obviously, but it was also like there were a lot more event listings that people actually really went to and looked up that like either a lot of those listing places went away or they're a lot harder to get listed on because it contracted. Like there used to be places that would um like I think New York Times they still do like best comedy to see this month and stuff. I think they're starting to bring it back, but for a little while it was like you were competing with all events in New York City suddenly instead of just comedy, and it's like a lot harder to get your show listed. I also think like part of that game is being able to go to other people's shows and really being out in the social scene. Like if you want people to show up for you, you have to show up for them. And
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
I just kind of moved into a phase in my life where I'm just not really going out as much. And I kind of had to realize like, okay, well, like cost benefit analysis of that is like, yeah, you're not out as much, you're not in the mix as much.
Yeah. And then
So
as you go out more, it caught the economy the way it is, going out more, the expense of buying the ticket. So I totally get what you're saying because it's you have to, you know, give a little bit back once you do start.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you have to go be out in the mix. And I just realized that my like social battery and ability to do that and like desire to do that had changed. And I think the bar is a lot higher to get people out to stuff now. Like I think it's changing a little bit, but especially in the immediate post pandemic, like to get people out of their house was a lot harder. People were used to being
Plus, there's so
home.
much to do in New York, though.
Yeah, well, that's another thing too. I think one thing that I noticed that was a big change is like pre-pandemic, I would sell a decent number of tickets prior to the show.
Hmm.
And now I feel like you're getting a lot more like 2 days before or day of because people really like to
Mm.
sit and be like, well, I want to know how I'm actually going to feel on the day
Oh,
before
yeah,
I
I do
commit.
that. Yeah.
Oh, I know. And it's like, I would get so frustrated. And I'm like, no, but I do that. Like, I don't buy my tickets to things until the day of a lot of times because I'm like, "Oh, but what if I wake up that day and I'm feeling sleepy or what if
Or
like the
other stuff
weather is
happens.
bad?"
Yeah.
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 Yeah, cuz if the weather's bad, I'm inside.
Oh, yeah. That's another
I'm
factor.
not
The New
doing
York, yeah,
like
the weather just killing the mood and all. Yeah, because I remember. Yeah, sometimes when it snows, you don't want to
Oh,
go
yeah.
out. Oh,
I
when
know,
it,
exactly. It's so funny, the older I get, the more I realize I'm like I have, like, the level of complexity of, like, a plant. Like, if the weather is nice, I am out there, I could do
what sign are
anything.
you? What
I'm
sign
a
are you?
Taurus, and
Oh,
that's
that's why
I
you
think
like
that
home and
tracks.
comfort. Yes.
Yeah, I'm like yeah, and I feel very Taurus-y,
Mm.
in my nature,
Yeah, that's
and
normal. That's normal. I
huh.
have my moon sign is in Taurus and I get like that, but I'm a Gemini overall, which
Ooh,
is
my sister's a
social.
Gemini.
Yeah, but the Taurus moon in me, which I have like a lot of Taurus in me. I notice like it's the comfort. I want to be at home. I don't. I think Friday I had to do something, and then I was like, I just couldn't wait to get home.
Yeah, there are some times where I really have to like challenge that part of myself because it's like, girl, you need to go out and be in the world. Cause there is definitely a
Yeah.
part of me that would chill at home all the time. I'm on my last 2 days of a 30-day yoga challenge at
Uh,
my at my yoga studio. And half the reason I did it was to be like, I want something that's gonna say you have to get out of the apartment and go somewhere every single day for a month because I will stay in my house because I work from home and so if it's like if I don't need to go
I
out, it's very easy for me to be like, "Oops, I didn't go anywhere or leave my apartment today." And so I wanted to like the yoga challenge for me was less about the exercise of it and more about being like, you have to go somewhere every day.
yeah. Well, you know what I started meant because I'm an influencer and I have to look good. Even I feel old as right now. But I started thinking like exercise, that's my work with that
Yeah.
mentality. And I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in the entertainment business. I'm an influencer. I have to always look good in my clothes and feel good in my clothes. Um, and plus I'm getting older. I need to so I work out like generally 4 to 5 times a week.
That's great.
But
Like,
I started with the mental to change it for me to force myself to go out because I had the same thing what you had. I said, no, this is part of my work. This is my
yeah.
work. Yeah. Because if you tell people, oh, I'm going to Pilates on Monday at 1:30, they're like, oh, what a life you have. No, I have like,
Yeah, it's so true, and I one of the things we talk about because Millie and our podcast is about the internet, social media. We talk about
mhm,
influencers a lot. Like, people act like being an influencer or an actor or an artist of any kind or a comedian, artist of any kind, they think that it's just like, yeah, this bohemian lifestyle of like whatever you're doing, whatever you want. But no, all of that stuff is work. And you're right. You have to maintain a certain level of appearance and you have to feel
mhm,
good. You have to both look good and feel good about how you look because you're putting your face out there
yeah,
as part of your work.
mhm,
And that's legit.
yeah,
It's not just like you time. It's also like I have to do this or else,
yeah.
my page might face consequences or I just won't be as like
Well, I won't get
happy
my
with my
income.
content.
Like honestly, it's come
Yeah.
to I have to post 5 times a week or I won't get my, like I won't make my money. I won't hit that. I have to keep up with the podcast. So
Right, and I mean, there's weird stuff, like, I know girls, like, women who are influencers who they can't post their partner because they will lose followers the moment that they
yeah.
post their partner, and it's, like, weird stuff like that that you have to think about because it is your job, and it's a legitimate job, and it's your
Mhm.
income, and I think the people who act like it shouldn't be your job or like it's a dumb job or like it's a job that doesn't require work. It's just funny to me because I'm like, well, you're consuming the content, aren't you? Let's look at who you're following.
Right, right. Let's exactly the people that talk. Who are you following?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, you're actually following a bunch of influencers and you're getting benefits from their content and you're getting entertainment from them, but you don't think that what they do is valuable. That's interesting. I saw that mentality with the SAG strike all the time, too. They're like, oh, these entitled actors, no shows
Oh
have
my
been
god,
good,
people
blah, blah,
talk
blah.
so much crap.
I know, and I'm
What
like,
really got me was the conservatives that were talking about like putting down the people, and I'm thinking, do you know how much in taxes some of these big time actors pay? And they don't. Yeah, like they were. I just was like, what the hell? Like, why?
it was crazy, and then people would be like, "Oh, these entitled millionaire actors," and I'm like, "Yeah, but the people that first of all, the millionaire actors are a very small percentage. We're actually
Yeah,
fighting for the people who are like working class actors who aren't millionaires. But even more than that, the top grossing actor, their income is nothing compared to these studios that we're fighting. Like David
right.
Zaslav and these like CEOs have incomes that are, I mean, those people are like Bezos
Yeah,
level, like billionaire types. They
yeah.
get $350 million a year in salary just to do what? Like, you don't even get entertainment from them. But at least the actors, like, you are watching that movie. You're getting to sit there and enjoy the damn movie. So,
Yeah, they're
I don't
making the most,
know.
and people don't know the whole. People that are not in the entertainment world don't know the whole dynamics.
No. And
They
that,
don't.
like, being on set, it's really long hours. It's really, really tiring. That also, like, you make one large pot of money because you don't know when your next job is
Yeah, and one thing
coming.
I noticed about when I left LA to New York is in LA, like stuff like nails, hair, a lot of service jobs, like it wasn't too expensive. And the nail people and the hair people, they were the best of the best. Everybody that ever did my
Mhm.
hair, I never had a bad experience in LA. everybody that did my hair, did my nails, did whatever beauty service or whatever. I had a great experience in LA. They cared about your business, but because they were dealing with so many people that were on budgets that would make a big amount, like you said, in budget, they were, right? I moved to New York and people had like an entitlement to, oh, they want to charge you so much. And I remember a lady on my credit card, I had my business name, and she's like looking at it and she's like, oh, well, and then she starts trying to upsell me all this stuff. And
Yeah, and it's like, this is just my person, like a small business
I'm like,
that
this is
is
a small
me.
business. Like, what are you like? She saw like my DBA on my debit card, and she was like, and it was like too much. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah. So people, they just don't have, but in LA, I love living in LA because uh, believe it or not, like so many people are in the entertainment business that they got it. Everybody got
Yeah,
it. The businesses got it. They understood. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And people that were somebody were very humble. Where people that weren't somebody, those were the fake people.
Yeah, God, the value of, like, finding your good hair person. My gal, who I've used for years, is, like, on vacation right now, and I need to get my roots done, and I'm like, I just have to wait for her to come back because I don't trust anybody else to touch
Yeah.
my hair. Like, I'm just gonna have to have these roots for a little while because
Now
I
I'm like at the corner, there's a guy now from me and he's cheaper and he does a great job. And I'm like, so they're always there.
yeah, yeah, I haven't found, like, my perfect nail place
I
yet,
feel like
but
I had that Brooklyn, I had one lady. And then here I found more. And I feel like in Brooklyn, if you find that one person, you have to hold on to that person.
yeah, you really, really do. And I need like, I also for nails, I need them to be really close to home because
Oh, I'm the
it's
same
such,
way.
yeah, because like
I'm
it's
s-
such a long time and stuff.
yeah,
Like
you're sitting
afterwards,
there,
afterwards, I wanna be able to, like, walk back to my house. I don't wanna, like, have to get
catch
on
a
the
train.
train
Yeah.
and do all this stuff. I'm
Oh,
like, I
hell
just
no.
want I'm like, when I'm going to get I don't have my nails done now, but, like, if I'm going and I'm getting my, like, acrylics and I'm doing, like, a full set, it's like, this is gonna be my day, and when it's done, I wanna be basically home.
I
Like
hear you. So share with me about the podcast that you and Millie are doing.
absolutely. So the podcast is called Go Touch Grass. It is our tagline is the podcast where we log in so you can log off. And the idea is that we break down the week in internet discourse, what
Mhm.
people are talking about, what's going viral, weird little niche dramas that are happening. We've had some great guests, really fun friends come on. We'll chat through it with them. So we like to say that like it's a great podcast for people who are super tuned in because you get to participate in the conversation, but it's also a really good podcast for people who are not because we explain everything and we like because we treat our guests as if they don't know anything about what we're about to talk about and we explain all the different facets of the drama and then at the end of every episode we declare a grass hole of the week, which is the person who needs to log off the most.
That people needs to log off the most.
And sometimes it's like we're saying it in a loving way. We always use Selena Gomez was our big example of someone who we like, but she was replying to a lot of comments about when she got into her relationship with Benny Blanco. She was like in the comments replying to people, and
And
it's like
on her IG.
on hers and also on like other stan
Oh, no,
accounts
no,
of
that's an
her.
assistant. That's somebody else doing that. I
No,
know
it's her. It's
it's her.
absolutely her. It's 100% her. She is very much this is a common theme with her, is that she
Really?
replies to comments because it's her getting pissed off and being like, "Well, actually,
Mhm.
he's the best person I've ever dated in my life." And we were like, "Selena, I think she's like the second most or she's the most followed woman on
She was,
Instagram."
yeah, she was at one point,
She
like the
was at
most.
one point, maybe she might have been knocked out. Either way, girl, you do not need to be reading the comments on Selena Gomez stan accounts and replying to them. You are too famous. You are too beloved. You're on a show with Steve Martin and Martin Short. Free yourself from that. You do not need to be doing that. So that was like a loving grass hole
Right,
of the
right.
week where we were like, you need to log off. And then there are ones with people who, a lot of ones where like business owners start going off on their like business account and
Really?
yeah. Yeah, there was this one whole saga with this restaurant in Boston called, I think the restaurant was called Table. And
Mhm.
basically, someone had a reservation at this restaurant. They had a medical emergency. They could no longer make the reservation. They tried
Mhm.
to call to cancel. The restaurant was like, no, you can't cancel. So then they charged them the cancellation fee, and the cancellation fee was like $200. It was like
Oh my god,
really
and they
steep.
oh.
So then this person did a chargeback on their credit card
Mhm.
because of some kind of thing where like their credit card provides travel insurance. It was like something where whatever. It was like a feature of their credit card that they could be
Right.
like, I have travel insurance for this trip. And so they ended up getting charged doing a chargeback to this restaurant. The owner of the restaurant found them on Instagram, DM'd them, and was like, you're a piece of shit for
Oh my
for doing a
gosh.
chargeback. So then these two started fighting like publicly online. It like so the person who the owner of the restaurant DMs this person and like dresses them down for doing a chargeback. That person posts the interaction on social media. Then people start writing in and being like, "Yeah, I've had this experience at this restaurant too. This owner is crazy." The owner starts replying from the account of the actual restaurant, getting into fights with people. They she starts a fan account for herself that is replying that is obviously just her.
Oh my
It's
gosh, leave it alone.
it goes deep. And so that's one where it's like you have to log off. You're
Yeah.
acting
Oh, that's
insane.
so that's the grass hole they have to log off.
Yeah, it's like you have to put your phone down and walk away.
Yeah.
Go touch grass, go be with your family,
That's why
go
I on
outside.
Twitter, well, now that it's called X, it's gotten
Mhm.
weird over there. It's not the
Oh, yeah.
same.
No, it's, I will say that it's still the funniest of the, like, platforms, like, like, Twitter still has really good jokes on it,
Mhm.
but I am not on Twitter as myself. Go Touch Grass has a Twitter, so I'll look at Twitter from there, but I don't, like, tweet or engage with
Yeah.
anything, and it
I
is,
like
like, a
oh, it's
weirdly
nasty. I like threads. I like
Threads
threads.
is interesting because I feel like Threads
Well, I work for Meta,
is
I have to say that.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love threads.
And
Everybody
I
should get
love
on it.
Threads, and everyone should post their thread. Threads
Yeah.
is interesting because it feels like it's more earnest conversations.
Yes.
Whereas Twitter is definitely more like jokes, memes are happening there, but also people are just nasty over
Oh
there.
no, there yeah,
And
I've seen it. It's just not I don't know, it's not the same.
yeah, and there's
It's
a I would say Twitter has a major bot problem now
yes,
too.
yes. I
It's
keep
too
on
many
losing and then
bots.
gaining and losing and gaining, and then weird bots are replying and
Yeah, it'll the thing that always makes me laugh is like because it's a lot of bots with like God bless, but it's because of like the automation, it'll be like a tweet that's like I've lost everything in a fire, and then the reply is like in bio, and it's like oh no,
yeah, yeah, no, they've gotten
oh
terrible. It's gotten terrible over there. It's
no.
like it's I have it. I share more stuff that I can't share on Meta for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I see it and I'm just like, wow, like
Yeah, there's a
and
lot of nasty stuff going on over there. But I would
yeah.
say people are still funniest on Twitter. As far as like text-based jokes go, I don't think
Okay.
that the jokes are hitting on threads the way
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, they're
they hit
not.
on
But if you
Twitter.
do share, I have shared a reel and it has kind of helped everything on threads. It has.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I
I
have
look at
another.
threads. I look at, Instagram was like my first platform that really like popped
Mhm.
off for me. And I do love TikTok. I hope that it doesn't get
Well,
banned or
I
whatever.
lost TikTok. Um, Noche Bueno, I was cooking for like the Christmas Eve, right?
Mhm.
And I did a TikTok, but this is also I had bigger breasts before. I was like a triple E. And I
Mhm.
took out my implants because of I was getting in trouble with social media. Plus I had them in for too many long.
That's crazy also that you can just get in trouble for social media
Yeah,
because you
but
have
I was
larger
so
breasts.
busty, and then it was just time. It was like I'm a double D now naturally, like with no
Mhm.
implants, and I had to do it, you know. Woman, we do stuff for certain reasons, and don't bug us about it. Like,
Yeah.
and but yeah, I lost it. And right away, this guy's like, I could get it back. If you write a review, it's only 15. If you don't, it's 2 grand. And I was like, you know what? I was like only at 50,000 on TikTok. I was like, it's not that important. So I have a new one that's like at 45. And I'm like, if it grows, it grows.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm kind of hoping that it does get bought out by somebody else.
I
Um,
feel like I guess I maybe I'm just in disbelief. Maybe I'm naive. I'm like, they can't actually shut it down completely in the US. That would
I
be
think
so
somebody will
crazy.
probably buy it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Mark goes and buys it, Mark Zuckerberg.
I think it'll either get bought or it'll get so bogged down in like court challenges and all this
True.
different
They're
stuff. Cause
holding
like,
on.
yeah, that it won't actually take place.
Right.
Like
Which
that.
reminds me, the other one that I'm barely on that I've had assistants work for me is Snapchat. That's the one
Oh
that
yeah, Snapchat. I never really got involved in Snapchat, but the
uh
kids love Snapchat.
yeah, yeah. No, but it's kind of as an influence, they do have a program that is monetized. I'm only at 7,000 on there, and if you have over 10,000, and I just haven't pushed it because I was like, so much stuff, so much stuff.
I
That's why
know it's
people,
so much. And you have to, like, tweak your content for every
oh,
platform. It's
God.
not one to one. It's so funny.
Yeah,
I've, like, seen that so much between TikTok and Instagram where, like, a video that I make that does well on Instagram flops on TikTok, or
yeah,
if the
yeah.
biggest videos that I have on TikTok
And I
got
hate
nothing on
I'll make
Instagram.
reels and I can't save those reels to recycle other places.
Yeah, that stuff drives me crazy too. I'm like, I'm so sick of being caught in between all these social media companies'
It's a
games.
it's a
But
pain.
that's a big thing that we talk about on the podcast too, is like people are and being an influencer is like a small business
Oh yeah.
of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
People, and then there are people who have small businesses that use Instagram or TikTok, or they're following TikTok shop is so huge now
Mm-hmm.
to build their business, but they're not really treated that way, especially with when you watch like these like senators and people who don't even know how to like print a document, like trying to talk about
Yeah.
like the internet. You can tell that they just think like, oh, this is just an app where kids like dance. And it's like, no, these are people's businesses. These are
Well, with
people's
TikTok
lives.
though, you can find out about good restaurants.
You can.
Yeah.
You very much can.
And
But
good recipes. Good recipes.
yeah, and it's but that's the thing too is like people I just my like soapbox that I'm always on is trying to get people to recognize that these social media platforms are basically like shopping centers and commercial centers at this point, and like
Yeah.
people should have protections before their account is just deleted or demonetized or the app goes away because it was banned. It's like that's like walking into a mall and being like, "Okay, actually all of your stores are closed now. Sorry.
Mhm.
Bye." And it's like people are have legitimate businesses on here.
Yeah. No, and their income is, but that's why
Yeah.
I think overall on social media, people have to spread out.
Yeah. Well, it's kinda like what we were talking about with comedy is, like, you really can't
Well,
put all your eggs
nowadays
in
with the,
one
yeah.
basket because you don't know what sometimes one social platform's up, the next one's down. Elon Musk buys Twitter, now there's Threads,
Oh,
Instagram isn't cool as TikTok was, but now TikTok's banned. Like, you do have to kind of play ball with all the different ones.
yeah. I did listen to an episode today. I listened to it with Kareem. because
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Who's a king of social media.
yeah, yeah, I listened to his episode because I'm very familiar with who he is because I used to watch his the meter one. What's his? I
Keep
don't
the
know.
meter running.
Keep the meter running because it had all those good places to eat.
Yes.
And I like it because it's very authentic. It was like
Yeah.
quality. Like you don't see sometimes the internet is like people are doing like dumb stuff or whatever, but I
Yeah.
feel like what he was doing was very quality and authentic. So
Yeah.
I listened to that episode and it's a good show. I love the dynamics of you and Millie.
Thank you. Well, Millie and I have our friendship goes way back. We were in a play, an interactive play at the Annoyance Theater about the Chilean mine collapse many years
Oh,
ago.
that's how you met her.
And we had known each other through being in UCB and being in the comedy world around, but that's where we became like friends. And then I used to do this news and politics podcast, and we were looking for another host for that. And so I suggested Millie for
Mhm.
that. And so we podcasted in that space for a really long time. And then at the end of this year, we decided like it was time for us to do something that belonged to us where, we could pick the topics. The topics could be funny. Talking about news and politics all the time, like,
Oh, yeah, I
um,
can imagine. Yeah, depressing.
sometimes it's funny, but sometimes it's really not.
Yeah. No, this podcast was fun. It was very easy to listen to. It was entertaining. And I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was good.
Thank
So I'm
you.
going to be listening in more episodes.
Becoming a member of Grass Nation. That's what
Oh, grass
we've landed on Grass Nation for our
grass nation.
listeners. But yeah, it's just something where it also gives us a space because Millie and I are two people who are interested in like news, politics, social issues, and we can still talk about them on the podcast, but we don't.
Mhm.
When you are a news and politics podcast, you're in a situation where like you have to talk about whatever's happening, even if it's like the saddest, most depressing up
Right.
thing you've ever heard. You can't just ignore it and be like, well, actually, we want to talk about this meme.
Mhm.
Like
This is more
you
lighthearted and more comedy. Yes.
absolutely. And that's
Right.
kind of what we wanted
Yeah.
to do.
No, I liked it. I liked it a lot. And because there's no TV shows no more. And I'm also
I
loving
know.
that I can listen to a podcast and I could just clean the house. I could do other stuff. I could be catching the train. And
Yeah. Yeah, I
and
have podcasts on in the background of like everything that I do at this point. I think I listen to some people I feel like listen to music all throughout their day and just always
oh,
have
I
music on
can't.
in the
I would
background. I can't if I don't know if it's like my ADHD brain or whatever, but it like
mhm.
I get to like whatever emotion the song is trying to evoke, like now I will feel that
And the
emotion.
thing I like about podcasting, when you kind of know somebody or you know of the person, instead of it being 'cause growing up, we would watch sitcoms and it would be
Yeah.
just fictional, whatever. But now it's like, it's kind of nice to hear from like real people, you know, how they really act and all that. So it brings a different connection.
Yeah, it really does, and it's just, I don't know, I guess it's also, like, people used to listen to the radio all day,
Yeah,
probably, like,
we're
radio
going
shows and
back.
stuff. Yeah, it feels like it is going back to that because yeah, sometimes I can't be I'm doing the dishes, I'm cooking, I'm this and that. I can't really be locked into like a TV show
Right. Yeah.
in the same way, but I can be listening to a podcast and if I have like music on when I'm working, I get distracted, but I don't as much. There's something about just voices talking that calms
Right.
me down.
Exactly.
But I have been watching or I just finished that show Fallout and it was really good.
Fallout. Which one's that?
It's based on the video game series, which I had never played. I'm not like really a video game person. That's never
Uh-huh.
been my thing, but it was really, really good in a way that I was like, "Oh, I haven't had a show to watch in a while
Oh,
because of the
Baby
strikes and everything."
Reindeer was good
I
on
just watched
Netflix.
Baby Reindeer
Oh,
too.
that was
Oh,
real good.
it was really good, but I was like, "Oh my god," like emotionally ups and
I
downs
liked
for
it. I
sure.
liked it. I kind of like where it shows that'll get to you, like, because at the ending was good
Yeah.
because then it makes sense. So, and it was little bit of psychological stuff going there, but I see him winning like an Emmy for that.
Yeah, I think that that show is gonna I thought all the performances were really,
Yeah.
really, really good in that
Right.
show. And, like, it was funny, but I wasn't expecting.
And that was like a true story based off,
Yes.
not the true. Yeah. He probably changed some stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, because I was, like, looking into it after watching last night, and people have been, like, trying to find the real woman who stalked him, and he was like, "Please don't do that," but then she kind of came forward
Oh
herself,
my God.
and
She,
she kind of revealed herself, and then also what is funny about it is that she, like, her thing is that she's like, "The show is portraying me all wrong," but then she acts exactly like the character in the show,
oh, I'll
and
have
you're
to
like,
now you're going to have me Google that.
yeah, I will say that, like, considering that she herself is speaking as herself, I'm like, I don't feel like it's outing her or
Mhm.
whatever, but I mean, he tried to be like, "Don't try to find her," but then people did, and then she's online
You know,
being
they
like,
had to. Everybody
yeah,
gets
and then she's
nosy.
online acting I mean, honestly, maybe she's the grasshole of the week this week because it's like, "Girl,
Oh,
log
that's you're
off."
going to have to do that. Yeah. For the,
"Girl, you don't have to come forward and say this was you." Like,
well, thank you so much, Elise, for coming on
ah,
today.
this was so much fun, and it
You
was
were,
great to chat.
yeah, you're a great guest. And I'm glad I had you. I'm glad Millie
Yeah,
suggested you too. And it was nice doing research, listening to the podcast, and because now I found something else to listen, you know.
I'm so glad, and you're a great host of this show. Everyone should leave you a 5-star
Yes,
review so
please.
we can
I'm gonna
lock
have to
that health insurance down. We're making it happen,
thank you. Thank you.
and
Can
you're
you
not gonna be audited.
ugh, they scared me. They were like right in that meeting, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Uh, I started my, like, S corp for myself last year, and it just every single letter that I get, I'm so nervous. It's someone being like, "We're auditing you," and I'm like, I don't have anything.
Oh,
Please."
I keep track of all. I'm so good with accounting, and all that. I'm good, but it's the fact that it's like I'm going in there trying to get the insurance. I have all this, you know, these different like 1099s and money I
Yeah,
made. And I just was like, oh my gosh, you guys are going to be get difficult on me now. Like
I know. I know. Everything is harder than it really
harder.
needs to be.
Right. Could you please let my audience know where they can find you?
Absolutely. You can find me on TikTok at Alise Navidad. That's Alise Navidad, like Christmas in Espanol. And then I'm at Pandalise on Instagram.
And my name is Marcela Alonso. If you'd like to see this episode and many more episodes, you can go to marcelaalonso.com. If you'd like to follow me on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, it is marcelasobella.com. Thank you so much again for coming on Sunday Funday.
Woo!